Coming up on this episode, you could be sitting today as one of the leaders of a large company, just like the big technology companies of today. Do you ever regret that you exited as opposed to building a company like that?
No, I'm so happy that I made it. No, not at all. Look, at some point, your values and your personal desires and the type of the lifestyle that you want to have is super important. At the end of the day, we're people, right? Living one life.
Welcome to the Leading Peers podcast. I'm your host, Leo Popek, the founder and CEO of Leading Peers, the community for CEOs to connect, collaborate, and grow. On this show, you will listen to some of the most amazing CEOs share their personal stories and the lessons they've learned along the way about leadership and life. Let's dive in. Hello, my friends, and today I have the privilege, the honor to interview a good friend, Felipe Sommer. Felipe is somebody who has become a very important part of my team here at Leading Peers, advising me as part of the board of advisors, and he has an incredible entrepreneurial story. He's somebody I greatly respect, not only for what he has achieved, but more importantly, for everything he's doing today to give back, to pass on, to give a hand to the next generation of entrepreneurs, and also to people with special needs. We're going to get to all of that in just a moment. Felipe, great to have you on the Leading Peers podcast.
Hi, Leo. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Philly, we're gonna go into your story and find out everything. But one of the things that immediately hits everybody who meets you nowadays is the fact that you had an exit only 4 years ago that was very significant. I believe it was something like $650 million sale of a company that you had founded along with a few friends, and in the education technology space, this edtech company, Nearpod, is something that I probably imagine very few people can imagine how quickly you guys grew it from inception to become one of the successful edtech companies of our time. So take us, before we get to that journey and everything you're doing today, advising entrepreneurs, take us back to the first 20 years of your life, growing up. Let's understand the man behind these accomplishments.
Great. So thank you. So everything started back in Argentina, where I was born. My family was one where academics was something super important. By the time that I was in high school, everybody was a college graduate at home, my parents and my sisters. So I don't know if I would say I had the pressure to go to school, but I knew that was going to happen because that's what we used to breathe at home. So I studied economics back in Argentina, then went into management consulting, worked for at the time a company called Andersen Consulting, which became Accenture over the years. So I started working there, and that job, probably together with study my college degree as an economist, really sort of set my path. As a result of that job, I decided to continue that career, so I moved to the US to study an MBA. I went to UC Berkeley. This is 1997, so I moved with my girlfriend at the time to California. I went to school. That was the time of the dot-com boom, so the internet and having a website. It's like now with AI, right? Now people talk about everything is AI. At the time, everything was a website. My experience in the Bay Area was amazing. I stayed a few years after school, working on different companies, mainly in the payments industry and in consulting. And I always had this sort of idea of starting my own business, but it didn't happen back in San Francisco, where I had a really, really good time, and it was an experience that was amazing, and it opened me to the entrepreneurial world in California. I had 2 kids there. My first 2 kids were born in California, and then we moved in 2004 to Miami where I really decided to become an entrepreneur and basically quit my corporate job and started looking for opportunities. And I studied a couple of companies in the marketing space and in the real estate space. And as a result of that sort of diversification of efforts and looking here and there, I quickly learned about the fact that there was going to be an app store that Apple was going to create with iPhones and iPod touches, and that was very intriguing to me. So I started a company in that space, in the space of building apps for iPhone. Actually, the first company name was Ideas for iPhone, which was a bad name because there were too many devices later on. And in the context of that company, I came up with the idea and the technology of Nearpod, where I got a patent of this idea of synchronizing devices. And the idea and the invention was not thinking about education, was about a technology that we uncovered for a business need. But then as a result of the sort of pricing dynamics in that business, which I thought that I could sell that technology for much more money, that didn't work. So I said, okay, what do I do with this amazing technology that works really well and it's really engaging? What can I use it for? And then I realized that there was a big change happening in the education space. I saw the internet being more prominent at schools. Digital books were emerging. So everything, I mean, from paper to PDF, but also like interactivity in books. And then I saw the large companies such as Apple and Google and Microsoft flooding schools with devices. That was the time that the iPads were going to schools, the Chromebooks were going to schools. And they said, wow, I have a technology that could be sort of the operating system of the classroom, because it incorporates this notion of interactivity and engagement, and it works on any device. So we decided to sort of not pivot, but basically focus ourselves in the education space with this company, this technology called Nearpod. There was something that at the time we had sort of three hypotheses, right? We were going to do a factory of content in Latin America. We're going to do an ebook platform, or this weird thing that we called Nearpod that we didn't know which one it was. So I started going to schools with an actual case with devices, because I was basically visiting schools saying, look, let me show you what's going to happen in the future. Your students are going to learn with mobile devices. No, that's not going to happen. Let me show you. I had the actual 35 little devices that I took with me. And I came back to my parents and said, guys, there's something here. The phrase was, acá hay algo. There's something here, because everybody was like, wow, if we were to deploy this could change the way instruction is delivered in the classroom. So we got really, really excited and decided to focus all of our efforts in Nearpod. And we started with very little knowledge of what was going on in education. The usual MO was one where there was a guy working for a large company going and meeting with school districts and selling top down, right, to the district for 7 years adoptions to everybody. And it was a corporate sale. And we were not ready. We had an app. It was not even a platform at the time. And so we decided to give it away and to teachers for them to try. So I would say that we used a freemium model, not because we had many options, but because we had no option, right? We said, oh, this is the only way we can test if this works is by giving this away. And then we realized that the technology was good, that the use case was very powerful, that it really generated engagement in the classroom. And then the company started growing in all sorts of dimensions. Usually I talk about product or service and go to market, like the two areas of the company, and then support at the bottom. So from a product standpoint, we evolved the product significantly. We added content and we added features and we added admin panels So we really built a platform that could be used. And then from a go-to-market, we changed and we adapted the team to sort of the changing buyer personas that we had. So we started with a teacher, and then we moved to a principal, and then somebody in technology at the district level, and then district leadership, and then even we got to state leadership, where we closed a deal for the full state. So, or actually a couple of those. So the journey was amazing. We grew the company. We had a large ARR number, of more than $80 million per year, 80 to 100 at some point. We had over 300 employees, and we reached, I would say at some point we were reaching out of like 30 million of like the 50 million kids who go to K-12 in the US. So that's the story very quickly. And it was the journey was amazing. I could talk about some of our learnings along the road, which I think that are really interesting. But
I'd love to jump into that. Thanks for that amazing story. Tell me a little bit about the partners, because you started talking about we at some point when you developed this. How did you decide who you were going to partner up with? Was it something you put a lot of thought into, or were you just kind of working with certain people on different ideas and just said, all right, let's start this? Did you imagine that you would have the partner group, and did it change over time, or was it always the same people? How did that evolve, in as much detail as you want to give us?
So, yeah, of course. So a few things here. This is a very important topic. First, I always talk about the power of co-founders, right? I think that a team of strong, trustworthy, capable, honest co-founders is key, especially to survive what I call the entrepreneurial emotional roller coaster, right? It's building a company, a growth company. It's something that has a lot of ups and downs, and it's not simple. And you need people that you respect, that work hard, and are they're honest to work with you. I had the privilege of doing this with my friends, right? One of my co-founders is sort of my brother. I don't have brothers, I have two sisters, but it's like a brother to me. We went together to high school and college and grad school, and we worked at companies together. So we had many things in common. So both of them were really good friends. And that was actually something that I think it's really, really important. We had some complementary skills, and personalities. We were always aligned. We were very unified in our decisions. So for me, it was key to the success of this journey and the exit that we had. But it's not only the exit, right? It's the culture we built, the relationship we still have. We still travel every year together. It's all of the alumni that left Nearpod and today are leaders in other companies. The product that we left, the product is still being used by millions of students, and it's amazing. And I still use it for presentations sometimes, or I'm going to get to that in the future, but I do a lot of advising and mentoring now. And every time that I talk to a product person, I said, have you seen Nearpod in action? Let me show you a good product working. And I'm still proud of it. And it's not because it's sort of my baby, but just because it works really well. So, your question about co-founders is, for me, is key. It's one of the most important things, in order to be successful in a journey like this.
And Feli, follow up on that question. What were the complementary skill sets of the three? If you had to describe what you brought to the picture, and without necessarily having to name or get into detail, what did each person bring?
So the one skill that we had that was, it's the same skill, but it becomes complementary, is the resilience we had, right? So I was first product, and then I was go-to-market. One of the co-founders took the content when we needed somebody for content, and then did customer success. It's like we were able to put hats, and it was not that we acted seamlessly, but for us, it was, okay, this is somebody that I trust that is taking care of this side of the business now, and we're going with that. So, I would say that resilience was something that allowed us to take different roles. I'm more of an emotional person and more passionate. And some of the other co-founders are more sort of, not as emotional, more analytic, and we have different skills related to people, right? I really got along with everybody, became friends with a lot of people in the company. Not when we had 300 employees, but the first 50, I was really, really good friends with everybody. So that the personal and professional aptitudes and attitudes that we had, I think that were very complementary to run a successful business.
Okay. And you were equal partners, or were there
Yes.
different percentages?
No.
That's amazing. Was it always three, or did you at some point have more than three partners?
No, we had the problem is that differently from a young entrepreneur we had other businesses going on, right? So we had partners that were sort of satellite partners to this company that were partners in other companies. So it's not as clean cut, but we had other things going on. So we had, like, the partnership was not exactly like, okay, 3 with 33% each. It was a little bit more complicated, but not to go into the details here.
Right. And when this started taking off, did you find yourself all of a sudden switching off your focus on the other ventures that you had on the side and being all in, or was it always a question of having a different percentage of?
No, we at some point for many years I was completely all in Nearpod, and I actually had other businesses that I sort of shut down because I didn't have the energy, and because the business case was clear. This was a growth company that we needed to. We were in land grab mode, right? We invented something that we knew that schools were going to use, whether our technology or somebody else's technology. But the schools were going to adopt this. And there are 15,000 districts in the US. So there was a race to capture as many as we could. Logically, this was the right thing to do, and just focusing on this business. So that's what we did. We had other things going on from our early days that we sort of shut down or give away to others or sold. But we had, like, important clients that we were doing business for them, and we decided to focus on product and do not continue any service type venture.
Feli, you've given a workshop for our members of Leading Peers on the difference between a fast growth company and a lifestyle business. The fast growth being a business that you're building to sell, whereas a lifestyle company is a business that you're building to run it yourself because it aligns so well with the lifestyle you want to have. Clearly, at some point, Nearpod became a fast growth company. You realize we're going to need to build this fast, and we're going to sell this at some point. Was that the vision from day zero, or did that happen?
No.
Yeah.
This was the vision from day zero. This was never a play to have a lifestyle business, because actually you cannot. Because in this type of businesses, you need to capture as much as you can, because the moment that you are not growing and you're not relevant for your clients, they go with a different player. So we planned this from the very beginning. Even there's something that I always talk about, which is sort of reverse engineer the playbook, right? So we knew that we wanted to do something with scale. For scale, we needed money. The money was in Silicon Valley at the time. Now you could find money here in Florida, but at the beginning, at the time, you had to go to California. Both one of my co-founders and myself were very familiar with the area. We actually lived there for many years. So we opened an office and we raised money in California. Now, the way to do it, when I say to reverse engineer the playbook, what I mean by that is, if you know you're going to play in Silicon Valley and you're going to raise money and eventually you want to exit. And when you exit, either there are VCs or private equities involved, you need to create a company that will survive any due diligence, and it's thought, like, for example, something we did, we had lawyers here in Florida, but we went and we hired Wilmer Hale, like a fancy law firm on Sand Hill Road in Palo Alto, because we knew that at the time of the exit, those type of lawyers were going to read the contracts, right? So we did it with that in mind, and everything we did was sort of super by the book in order to just have not even questions at the time of due diligence. So that is something that you don't need to do that if you're going to run your own small business, right? But if you want to do something big, you need to think that those things ahead.
Feli, you rode the wave of VC growth. Venture capital funding was growing at the time that you were building Nearpod, and you spotted the opportunity to grow with VC money. And along the way, we went into the pandemic in 2019, 2020. We went into a pandemic, which just accelerated the adoption of technology in school like no event we could have possibly have foreseen could have ever done. All of a sudden, kids could not go to school, and there was no other option but to do it online. When you look back, how much of that is something that you now call luck, and how much of it is something that you think you could have predicted in some way, not necessarily the pandemic, but that it was going to work even without the pandemic at a similar pace?
Well, the notion that mobile devices, and whether it's a phone or a tablet or a computer, was going to be part of instruction in K-12. This is something that we knew was going to happen. We always said that the classroom is not going anywhere, but in the classroom there's going to be technology, because, and I pitched this many times. When I went to school, the teacher asked a question. 2 or 3 kids raised their hand and only one answered. With Nearpod, with technology, that same use case, you have 30 kids answering the question. And that generates engagement, and that generates interest, and that provides an ability for the teacher to intervene. So the idea of devices as part of the education is something that we knew, and that was my pitch when I went to my little case, it was not that little, to the schools, right? Now, when you ask me, okay, the fact that everybody needs to be at home for a year, and then the schools were going to be shut down, and the remote classroom, well, that I didn't know it was going to happen in 2020. For sure I didn't. But I have some friends who say, oh, you're so lucky. Well, I was ready, right? We had the technology that was perfect for this situation. So, I think you always have to be somewhat lucky, but clearly we worked very, very hard, and we built something that was amazing. And then we were a little bit lucky as well, but I wouldn't say that luck was what, created the exit or the success in the company by any means.
No, I agree 100%. A lot of people, when COVID came, saw the opportunity to create something like that, but you had already created it and over many years and validated it and built a team and built that legal infrastructure and everything, the funding background, which allowed you to have that powerful moment.
Yeah, if you're not in that space and then the pandemic hit, you can't do anything to basically win the use case in the classroom if you're not there yet. It's almost impossible.
Yeah, no, this was a winning story way before the pandemic started. The pandemic just sort of changed the speed at which you grew in 2020 and 2021. And in some ways, it probably accelerated your exit. Don't you think that maybe you would have waited a little bit more had the pandemic not come?
Well, we were ready. We thought about, we did an acquisition in 2019 of an amazing company in New York. And at some point we were going to build, sort of continue to buy companies and build sort of a conglomerate of edtech companies that then we could, I don't know, take public or operate or sell. But we had, before the pandemic, we were sure that we didn't want to stay for the long term, and just, it's different. I like to start things and push them at the beginning. When you have hundreds of employees and it's more a corporation, right? And so we knew that we were going to exit. The timing, it's hard to say, right? I mean, we didn't have an inbound, so we went, because the way this starts is either you have an inbound or you start a process, right? And we started, when you say start a process, you hire somebody, usually an investment bank, that will help you find a buyer and will run the process. We intentionally studied a process to sell in late 2020.
What's interesting, Feli, is that at some point you decided that you were going to exit instead of building this corporation. You know, you clearly could have gone on to now be running a company that would be publicly traded or would be doing hundreds of millions, if not billions, in annual recurring revenue if you had continued growing organically and acquiring companies and so on. You know, you could be sitting today as one of the leaders of a large company, just like the big technology companies of today have done. Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, any of those. Do you ever regret that you exited as opposed to building a company like that?
No, I'm so happy that I made it. No, not at all. Not at all, because it look, at some point your values and your personal desires and the type of the lifestyle that you want to have is super important. At the end of the day, we're people, right? Living one life. So no, I do not regret by any means. I mean, anything. I think it was a right call. We designed it that way, so it's not that it had just happened. And now, and especially with, I mean, we're not going to go into politics, but with the current, or the last few years, the political climate in the US and the polarization, it's really hard to manage a company in this space, especially in education, because there's a lot of politics. I mean, in the last, at the end of my tenure at Nearpod, I mean, we started thinking about, okay, there's a proposal for a red state or a blue state, because we were going to sort of approach this with cautious, right? So no, I don't regret at all what we've done, and also it's about just having different experience, right? So now I'm doing something completely different, which I enjoy, and I think that that's the beauty of life, right? You can diversify and do different things. It's not always the same thing.
Yeah. What I find fascinating about you is that instead of choosing to be a lifestyle entrepreneur or a fast growth entrepreneur, you decided that you could have a stage in your life where you were a fast growth entrepreneur in the context of a general life where you've built it around lifestyle more than, you know, being a workaholic and being completely focused on exits.
Yeah, also the ambition is something that is super personal, right? What is ambition? And what everybody and all of people listen to this are going to think, well, what's my magic number, right? What is financial independence? Well, people have different numbers, right? People have different views about what they want to leave to others, right? So the mix of all of that these are completely different decisions based on what you want and who you are and how much is enough, right? The world is crazy these days. How many millions of dollars are enough for people to say, okay, I'm happy with this? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that you'll find answers from 1 to 1,000, and who's right and who's wrong.
Well, I have to tell you, I feel myself privileged to have somebody like you in my life who has the success story of the fast growth company, but is still young enough, but has the time to be able to
Thank
share
you.
their learnings. Because most of the people that chose that lifestyle get sucked into that, and they never get out. They're never able to sit down with me or with other entrepreneurs to share what they've learned, or by the time they do it, they're so old they can't relate anymore to anybody who's young and building things. So I'm so happy that you made the decision that you did. Well, let's jump into those learnings. You had mentioned before some of the big learnings of building a fast growth company, of building Nearpod. And I think you've already shared a few. You've shared the importance of having clarity from day zero on what the exit looks like and building a company with that reverse engineering. But let's dive into some of the other learnings that you got along the way. Which ones do you want to share? I certainly have a couple questions of learnings that I think I'd like to dive into. But what are some of the top 3 learnings that you got from the Nearpod story?
So I think that the whole idea of, people is probably the most important asset, right? After you have your founding team, then the people you hire are the people doing the work, right? And taking the vision to fruition, right? So people, I think is one of the most important assets. Now, for people to work, you need to establish a proper culture, right? And how these people are going to interact. So sometimes culture is it could be a competitive advantage. It seems intangible and not that important, but when the culture works and people feel that they belong to the company and they put their best effort, that amplifies the power of people. So I think that's something that I learned, and I think it was super important. I struggle to understand how companies will be able to do that today with remote working and people, not caring that much, right? We had a very powerful we had all the time very powerful, what I call office moments, right? There were moments in the office where, wow, people were aha, either because you're able to describe something or because you tell an example of what has happened with a client or a product. So there were a lot of aha moments in the office. I think that today it would be hard, but again, I think that was something super important. I think that the ability to maintain focus while experimenting is something that it's super important. So this is what I'm talking about. So it's very easy to find false positives when you're an entrepreneur and go into a new direction that goes nowhere, but you're all by some client comment or some product discovery. So we decided that we were going to be focused on US K-12. That's it. So everything that was international or higher ed or corporate, we said no. Actually, at the beginning, I said yes, and I launched Nearpod for Business, which was a failure, right? I closed it down in a few months because I thought, it's the same use case, it's the same product, I reskin it, but then I realized no, because when you go into a new space, the clients have different requirements and there are other competitors, and your product team and your marketing team, they cannot do just 5 different use cases in 5 different industries. So I think that focus was something that helped us a lot, because when you are, it's both for product and go to market, right? That it works, because if not, you stretch yourself too thin, right? If you need to build, whether it's product or go to market for this and this and that, it's hard. Now, having said that, I think that the idea of experimenting with project ideas is something that is really, really interesting. So basically we created sort of a SWAT team or a tiger team, we call them, small team that was going to focus on this experiment for 2 or 3 weeks. And then we're going to be able to analyze what happened. So now, I don't know, an experiment could be, let's launch a new English, content for English language learners, right? In our case. So then we go and we talk to clients, we talk to users, and we put some MVPs together, and we sort of we do a very soft launch that it actually sucks. It's not a real product, but it's an experiment, and you see if it works. And if it works, then you really budget for it and invest. But it's good to run experiments as part of the evolution of our growth startup. And that goes very much in line with the agile methodology, which is agile is for software development, but actually it's a way of testing things regardless of the software, right? It's your attitude, right? It's scrappy, I test it. If it works, I go with properly, but I don't build something that is huge to see how people like it and it's perfect. No, it cannot be perfect.
Which, by the way, is one of the things I love about having you in my advisory team at my advisory board at Leading Peers, is you have that mentality of, all right, try it. We'll talk at the next meeting. But if you don't try it, we have nothing to discuss, right?
Exactly.
We have no chance of learning, right?
Yes.
And it sounds like when you were building Nearpod, that was something that was happening as you were seeing that, the classroom was the place that people were going to continue to learn. K through 12 was going to continue to happen, but technology was going to be adopted. And it wasn't so much that you had researched years or decades of data, because there was no past with the internet. This was all new, but there was something in you, like a gut, an intuition that, hey, isn't it better when a teacher asks a question and 30 kids can answer at the same time as opposed to, 3 raising their hand and 1 answering? It just seemed to make sense to you, and you were trusting your gut that the technology could create a shift in the direction of what education needed to be, and just saying, let's test it, let's take it, let's show it to them, let's see if it creates engagement. How much would you say that gut and intuition are important when you're creating this type of fast growth company?
Well, a lot, right? I mean, it's when you're disrupting something, there's no data, right? There's no data, right? Because this has not been happening for years. So the gut is super important. The visualization of the experience, that is something that probably that was my expertise, because my previous business was about creating experiences. So the famous UX, right? Before the UX existed, before an application had a user experience, there was an experience of, even at an event, right? At a wedding, when you invite people home, right? What is the experience? So I was always not worried, but focused on having amazing experiences. And then you translate that into the device, right? But the ability for teachers, when I saw what our technology could allow teachers to do, and then when I started talking to teachers and they were saying, oh, you can do this and you can do that, and I found applications for all subjects, all levels, it was amazing. Something that I didn't say in your last question about some of the learnings, I don't think it's a requirement, I think, is you need to have a product that is amazing. And with that, everything is easy. Now, if you have a bad product, you need to be really, really, really good selling it or doing some sort of other scam, but because the product is not that great. But if you have a product that solves a problem, then it's easy to build a company, I would say.
Yeah.
And we had
That's why that complementation between you being more emotional and some of your partners being more analytical is that important. You see that in the founding story of Microsoft or Apple, where you had a more emotional leader who sort of understood the feeling that they wanted their user, their client to have. And then you had somebody more analytical that was able to just, code it or build it in that way that the product delivered on that experience that that more intuitive, emotional person had in mind. Would you say that really is critical in any team building something?
Yeah, for sure. Yes, you need partners, and you need complementary skills and and not only skills but also attitudes and I mean, same values, but different styles and complementary skills. I think that's it, the magic recipe.
I love it. I love it. What a great story. And I'm so thrilled for you that you had that success. And on the personal side, for those who are listening in and are curious, I first met Felipe in 2020 at the start of the pandemic. And I, at the time, had just had a really bad thing happen to my international corporate event management company. With COVID, all of the music stopped and there were no events happening. And through a common friend of ours, Alejo Chohuela, we got connected. And Felipe was looking to potentially invest in an edtech company that was doing Spanish language vocational training, mainly in Latin America and the U.S. Hispanic market. And he said, Leo, would you come on board and start the B2B division of this company, and I'll invest, and then I'll mentor you or guide you, or we'll work together. I'll throw ideas and then you'll implement. And it was such an important moment for me to have that project, that opportunity. So for that, I'm eternally grateful, because I was just kind of waiting to see what was going to happen to that business. But through this venture, I kept going. I kept the wheel spinning, the momentum moving in my career as I learned new things, learned a different industry altogether that you were so immersed in, edtech, and passionate about, and saw a VC-backed business that was so different from these fully owned businesses that I had built until that point. So from that moment, a trust was built, and a gratitude that I'll hold on to forever. So thank you for the opportunity, Felipe.
My
and
pleasure,
with that,
yeah.
Let's talk about this, this next stage of your life, which is exactly doing what you did for me, which you're now doing with so many other entrepreneurs. Tell us a little bit about what decision you made after exiting Nearpod of where you wanted to put your time.
Great. So I'm a very active person, and I'm not gonna just go and retire. I feel I have a lot of energy, and I don't even understand what retirement could mean to people, right? Because you stop doing things, or you do other things, right? So I decided that I wanted to continue to be engaged with businesses, but I didn't want to run my own thing. I was not ready to start anything new and have a lot of people reporting to me and find money and have a commitment. I wanted to have more of a relaxed life. But when I say relaxed, for me, it's not relaxed like I just have 1-2 meetings a day. I have a lot of meetings a day because I'm very active all the time. I decided to start something that I need to put names to things, right? So I said, ABA. I'm going to be an advisor, a board member, and an angel investor. And with that framework, I started looking for opportunities that came to me because of my role in Nearpod and because of my sort of networking life. So I did all of that. I started being an advisor to some people. I started doing angel investments, and I sat on a few boards. And then I did something that I wouldn't put in that is similar, but I wouldn't put as part of the ABA, which is I do coaching and mentoring of young people as a hobby, right? I like doing that. I don't charge any money. I do it whenever I can. If I go on vacation, I don't do it. And I keep in touch with, dozens of people that I have a relationship. So I talk every quarter, sometimes every month, twice a year. I have these are long-term relationships. I have, now they became, most of them personal as well, right? Because I understand what's going on in their lives, in their careers, in their companies. So that's something that I do a lot. The ABA concept didn't work that much for me. Sitting in boards is not that interesting. Your board is different, but usually, boards, I find that, if things go well, there's not much to add. If things go bad, you need to take over and do things that I don't want to do. I had to fire a CEO and decide to sell a company, being sort of an executive chair of 2 boards. I had to sort of liquidate one, the CEO, one, the company. So sitting in boards is not that interesting. Doing angel investment is not that interesting to me anymore. Now I say that I don't invest anymore at first sight, like love at first sight. So my new model is one where I continue to meet people and I engage in relationships. If we continue to talk over the next few months, and if they continue to deliver what they said the first meeting, and I like them, I might consider investing. But usually, like if they call me for, okay, there's an angel round closing next week, before the meeting starts, I say, no, I don't care what you're offering me. I don't do it anymore. And I also feel that it's so hard for entrepreneurs to return the money to their investors. Like usually it doesn't happen. Most startups don't go anywhere. So I continue to do a lot of coaching and mentoring as a hobby over the past couple of years. And last year I launched. I'm always looking for impact, right, in my life, and I want to do something that really adds value to other people and creates a difference. So I launched this nonprofit called Bloom that you can see here. So Bloom is cultivating growth, empowering lives. It's a nonprofit focused on generating employment for young adults in the autism spectrum, or neurodivergent people, you could call them. And the idea is that we created a method that is a sustainable agriculture method. It's growing microgreens, something that is a hydroponic system they can do inside. And I'm engaging schools and institutions that support these young adults, and it's going really, really well. And I'm passionate about that. I have a lot of volunteers who help me. We're implementing schools and organizations almost every week now. So it's growing. I'm super passionate about that. I think that once we start doing serious fundraising, there's a lot of monies that can be used to amplify this business. I haven't relied on anything. I decided to sort of start with my own money. But at some point we will do like serious fundraising, and I hope that this will scale, but differently than the for-profit world. The sense of urgency and the fact that you need to do it tomorrow or somebody else will do it is not here, because this is something that in the non-profit world, whether you affect 1, 1,000 or 1 million, you're still creating something positive, right? So it's not that it's either you are the one non-profit or somebody else will be, there could be many. So I enjoy the fact that you don't need to be in a rush for everything. We're doing something that is super important, is not that urgent. Like sometimes I talk to institutions, oh, but we cannot next week. It doesn't matter. This is for the long term, right? I mean, this is super important. If we don't do it next week, we do it next month. It's the same. So I'm super excited about that project. I
love it, Felipe. And I want to continue digging into this topic, because I think what you're building is something incredible. And I'm so happy that you're the one doing it. I think you're such the right person to do it. But before, there were a couple of things you said along the way that I wanted to get back to before we skipped over them. You talked about the people you coach. You said, I'm currently now coaching dozens of people that I speak with once a quarter. And, I started coaching them on the business side. Then I developed the personal side if they open up to me and they want guidance. For somebody listening, this is a huge opportunity. As they're listening to, they might be thinking, what if I reach out to Felipe? So I want to make sure before you start getting calls from entrepreneurs that want to receive that free coaching that could eventually evolve into something else, an investment, but initially doesn't have to be. And in most cases, because I know you and I know the people you're helping, doesn't evolve into you investing money. You're just really doing it to help the future generation of entrepreneurs. So tell us more about what you look for. Who is that entrepreneur that you want to come knocking on your door and say, hey, Felipe, let's have a conversation. Let me tell you what I'm doing, and I'd love to get some guidance from you.
So usually, so there are two profiles, right? I talk to a lot of very young people and help them either choose their careers or give them inspiration to start a small new business. But when I talk to people that are already in business, I look at three things, right? I mean, the most important is I need to like the person. Like, if I don't like the person and I don't feel that there is a connection, I don't care. Because I'm doing it for them. So if I don't like, if I don't like them, if they don't do if I don't like them and the way their attitude is and how they interact with me, then probably nothing is going to happen. But then I need to be interested in the industry. Like, what they're doing is important to me. The product is the least important thing to me, because the product might evolve. Like, I get engaged with people more than with the specific business idea. Now, if you're in a space, I don't know, if you're building something for downstream in oil and gas industry, and I don't know, like, I can't help you that much, right? I mean, I could help you to talk general, but I don't get motivated by that. If you're in some industries that I don't like, I don't know, I wouldn't participate. But I need to like the person, and I need to sort of overall like the space where they're trying to do something, and then the product, right? But the product is what takes the most time to understand, and the product can pivot, right? And it can evolve. But for me, it's more of a personal connection.
Fantastic. I also wanted to jump into the second thing, which is, you went over the board participation you have, and then you said, but your board is different. Your board is different. So is it because of what we do, the industry? Are you passionate about the industry? Is it something about how it aligns with what you've always done in education, with leadership development? Or is it more the way we work together? Or is it more your interaction with me? What is it? Is it because it's an advisory board and not so much a board of directors where you have a fiduciary responsibility? What is it that you enjoy when you jump in? Because I could see you're having fun during our meetings.
So a few things. First of all, I like leading peers a lot because it's a little bit of the same philosophy that I have, but as a company, right? So you have boards and you have rules, and I, at the end of the day, some of the value that we both deliver is the same, but in a different format, right? So yep. I always like when you told me about leading peers, I always liked this idea of, because I think that people need to talk to peers and need to talk to others to improve. Actually, I express things out loud in my life all the time, and I'm sometimes talking to my wife or my kids or friends, telling them things that I'm not talking to them, I'm talking to myself out loud, right? So I think that's super important. So I like the space a lot in the use case of like people helping each other. Now, in terms of the board participation, it feels to me that in the way you run the board, there are clear call to actions. I feel that the board of advisors can add value to you, and we actually do that. Some of the boards, other boards that are more like we do this board because you have things to talk to us about, and some of the other boards they happen because they need to happen from a regulatory standpoint. So if I'm in a meeting for 2 hours and I cannot add value, then I say, why do I need to be there, right? So that's what I like about leading peers board. I also have a number of people that I interacted with in my sort of coach or mentor capacity that are members of leading peers, and I interacted with them either before or after, it doesn't matter, but in the context of the same time. And I can see how the leading peers like forum approach is helping them, because I realize when I talk to them one-on-one. So something good is happening there.
Absolutely. And, I have 6 people on the advisory board, and the group's been so stable. I started it about 3.5 years ago, and I think you jumped on board a couple of years ago. And what you bring into the board out of the 6 people is this passion for what we do, but at the same time, you're not a member, which 3 of the other people, 3 of the 6 are members. Then there is a 4th person that is not a member of Leading Peers, but he worked many years in an organization in the CEO peer group space. Then there's another one who's more of a personal trainer. And then you are that entrepreneur who's built something big and quickly, who's a global thinker and who was in the education space. And you're able to tinker with personal development, with meets technology, meets company growth. And I find that to be such an important value add in the way you've complemented the board. So there is a very specific reason why each person is there. And when you came, it just felt right. And I just, when you're at a meeting, the meeting's better. I so much value having you at every meeting that we have every couple of months. Feli, I do want to end with what you're building today, because I just think it's so unique, and you're inspiring me to go into the nonprofit space when I'm older. And I'm sure a lot of other people listening are thinking, how cool would it be to do that? So let me ask you, first of all, did you ever envision yourself sort of in this mature stage of your career? You're somewhere in your 50s, as but you're still in the prime of your professional life. You in the next 20 years could continue to enjoy great health, great energy. Did you ever imagine that you would spend this chapter of your life in the nonprofit space? And number one. And number two, what was it about this particular idea that made you say, this is worth my really going in and put a lot of focus in this?
So this was not planned. It's not that I said, okay, I want to build a company, I want to exit, I want to go into nonprofit. But I think it's the right thing to do now. It's hard to plan everything, right? I mean, I just came back from a vacation with my 3 boys and my wife, and they don't think about, they think ahead, but nobody knows what they're going to do, like 3 stages ahead in your life. So I haven't thought about that. Now it seems to me that is the right thing to do. And why, I found a problem that is meaningful and that not a lot of people are focusing on. And I think that I found an approach that I find super doable, and I wouldn't say easy, but I think that we built a method, and we're still building it, a method that could actually work. And not only is a way of growing plants, but I'm building a curriculum and a way to engage. And if it works, it could really create job opportunities. One thing that happened that I had not thought about, I went to Tampa, I told you, to launch there, and I met with a few schools, but then I met with a restaurant owner. And basically I convinced him that he could buy the production from a school. So now I came back to Miami and I went to another restaurant. So now what if we have socially responsible business owners that own restaurants that say, yes, I can spend a few $100s per week and support the production of this school or this center or this organization, and create such a positive virtuous circle, right? Where, they're growing something that these people need. And for some of these neurodivergent people, it's not about the income we're thinking about, the fact that they can make money. It doesn't matter how much. It's amazing. The other day, one of the schools that I'm working with, we went to the farmer's market and they sold microgreens and they made money. And they were ecstatic. The first time that these young adults made a dime, it was like $20 each. It doesn't matter. But that is something that is incredible. And if this could scale, it would be amazing. It would be, truly amazing. How I thought about all of this now, but I'm sort of thinking as I'm going. The main idea of creating something that could help people with disabilities live better is something that I think it's amazing, right? If I could do that, it's incredible. I'd rather do that than make money just doing advice for a large company who's already making a lot of money, like at this stage of my life.
Yeah.
Again, no judgment whatsoever with anybody who's doing other things. Of course, each one, if you do something that is legal and ethical, I'm fine. There's no judgment, but this is what I want to be doing these days.
I love it. You know, my mother worked with children with special needs. That was her career. So I grew up seeing them in my own house because she was pregnant with my earlier young, sisters. So they had to come over. She couldn't go to the hospital or her clinic. And I've been seeing kids with special needs since I was, a toddler. In my 20s, I was the executive director of a nonprofit in the special needs kids space, Lekotech, a Swedish-founded organization built around playing and inclusion of kids with special needs with this. So you're in a space that's very dear to me, and I absolutely believe that we all have special needs, and we're all different, and that's the beauty of the world. What was it that made you say, this particular idea is the way that I could give back?
So I, at the times of Nearpod, we launched something called Nearpod for All Learners. So it was focused on people with special needs. And I learned about what I call the problem of the grade 13, right? So what happens here is that grade 12, you finish high school, and if you have at home somebody with a cognitive disability, then what happens after high school? The bus is not coming to pick him or her up anymore. So the grade 13 problem is, okay, what happens with this population after the system, sort of, it's over, right? After K-12, which system that takes care of you. So I was very intrigued of doing something for that. I met with another friend who has a daughter with a disability, but then nothing happened. And then in the context of our friend, Alejo Chohuela, he introduced me to the school where where his son goes. And I pitched this to the principal and I said, I've always wanted to do something like this. I need a partner. I need a subject matter expert, somebody in the space, because I don't know anything about this. Like, I didn't know anything about Nearpod at the time, about education. When they said, yes, we're interested, we want to support you, then I said, okay, if you tell me that, I do it. And I did it. And then we're doing it. And it's growing and it's spreading, a lot. Actually, tomorrow, I'm driving to Jupiter. We're implementing at an amazing place, the Ernie Els Foundation, for autism. So we're going there tomorrow. But my big goal for this year is that we can start implementing this with no personal contact, like a self-service model. I'm building that now, so it can start scaling. So I'm applying all my knowledge and my guts and the way that I think in the fast-growing for-profit world into this world. So let's see what happens.
Well, I'll give you an opportunity to tell us later about who you're looking to attract to grow this. But before that, why did you choose Microgreens? Because that's also something that's very significant to me. I wanted to understand why this idea, because you could have created employment for children with special needs in other dimensions, maybe with coding, maybe with, designing robots. Why did you choose to get them working on Microgreens?
Well, look, I did a research project where I analyzed what businesses were being studied, and I wanted something physical. I didn't want to go into tech, and I wanted something that I could touch. Microgreens is something that is simple, it's repetitive, it's clean, it's safe. There's I didn't know this, but there's a huge connection with the actual plants, right? People with special needs develop, like, it's instant gratification. It grows, like, in 4 days you see something, right? It's quick, it's beautiful, it's tasty, it's fashionable, it's clean, it's safe.
Hey, it's healthy.
It's healthy. Actually, one of the parents in one of the schools in Boca Raton he is giving me information saying that like what these microgreens have, there's a chemical component, is so good for the brains of this type of people. So there might even be like scientific research that supports that this is good for them. But without even going there yet, I found that it was something that was easy, right? And good, and people like it, and they can learn it fast, and you can find people who can actually do this fast as well. My sister is helping the Argentina launch. We launch in Argentina. And in a month, my sister and my brother-in-law, they learned everything, and now they're doing it with different institutions. So I think it was amazing that we chose these. And now I'm trying to find a ways for them to sell them, right? And actually make money, and it's tasty and it's healthy. It's all positives. All positives.
What are the top plant or 2 or 3 plants that you're doing with microgreens?
So we do broccoli, we do radish. By the way, microgreens is not a type of plant; it's a stage of development in the plant. So all of them go through the microgreen. So we're doing radish, and we're doing broccoli, and we're doing kale. We're doing arugula.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's good for the brains of all types of people.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is.
Well, before I get to my last question, tell us, who are you looking to talk to right now to build this nonprofit? Are you looking to speak to school principals, school boards? Is it parents of children with special needs? Is it nonprofit institutions? Is it restaurants? I know that you're very broad.
Everybody you mentioned, I'm interested in talking to. So we're talking to institutions where we can actually implement our method for them. By the way we're doing it now is all free. I give everything away to the institution, and then if they decide to continue, they buy their own soil and seeds a month from now because they want to continue. So we're giving this away. So I'm interested in institutions. I'm interested in parents. There are 2 families that are going to start doing this at home so they can sell and their kids can have an occupation. I want to talk to organizations that can help me financially, or I want volunteers. I want restaurant owners. I mean, the problem is that because I don't have funding yet. I don't have like full-time staff. I have people who help me, and I put a lot of time, but I think that the next stage is to have full-time staff actually running these programs. All of these ideas that I have require people to actually deliver them. And I want to continue sort of leading this with my vision, but at some point I need somebody to work, maybe not full-time, but to be somebody more professional doing the work of the nonprofit.
Beautiful. Let's talk. I can help you promote it to the leaders of Leading Peers. Let's definitely talk.
Definitely, yes.
Well, my last question is, what have I not asked you that you would have loved to answer, or you would love to share with our listeners? 150 or so CEOs leading companies and leading peers, plus people outside of Leading Peers. Everybody has access to the podcast. What one lesson about life or entrepreneurship or CEO leadership do you want to pass on, or what part of your life or lessons learned did you not get to share that are important to you?
Well, I want to go back to, we're all people, right? And even though you're running a business, you're living your life. So your support circle, I think, is something that is super important. Your partner, the most important decision you can make.
What partner do you refer to in life?
I'm talking my wife here.
Yeah.
And partner in general, right? Somebody, because as I said before, like just building things is stressful, right? And there are ups and downs, and you need support. And but again, if you're single and you have your wife or your husband, and you rely on friends, if you're super young on your parents, it doesn't matter. But I think that finding the right support is super important, and that goes along with sort of that notion translates to finding the right co-founders, to finding the right people and setting up the right culture, to have healthy relationships at home, whether it depends on what stage you are, right? It could be your parents, your friends, your wife, your husband, your kids. But the people aspect of things, I think, is the most important one, because features of a product, I mean, yes, you have one or less, it doesn't change anything, but the people you surround yourself with is the most important thing at every level, I think.
I think that's a great message, and one that I believe in wholeheartedly. We thrive because of the people around us, and they give meaning to our lives. So it's a great, great message. Feli, I'm thrilled to be your friend. Thank you for being a part of my journey. Thank you for everything you do for Leading Peers. And I wish you nothing but success. I want to be a small part, add a grain of sand into that great, great edifice that you're building with this new nonprofit. It's so exciting. Bloom, everybody. Make sure to check it out. And I'll see you soon, Feli. Take care.
Thank you, Leo. Bye. Thanks a lot.